are united in our belief in inherent worth and dignity of all. My name is Linda Heidenberg, and I have been an active member of the UU Fellowship since 2015, back in the days when Amy was our minister. Our speaker today is Reverend Amy Brooks. Amy is our former minister of UU Lake Norman. She is part of GreenFaith and multiple faith, climate, and environment movement. No, I'm not with it today. I am here, but don't worry about it. Hey,
you're doing well.
Blame it on Bob.
Anyway, you can read more about Amy in the book, in the pamphlet here. Okay, chalice lighting words. We have a word about the chalice. We have been asked not to use candles anymore for various reasons. Anyway, so we are now going to light this beautiful candle, which use the candle lighting words with me. Chalice lighting. We light
This flaming chalice to illuminate the world we see. In our search for truth, may we be just. In our search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace.
Isn't that beautiful? Now I don't have to worry about if ever up here with candles.
Can we cheer for the candle?
Huh?
Can we cheer for the candle?
Yeah.
Safety first.
Yeah, safety first is right. Opening words. Amy.
Our opening words this afternoon are entitled Only Love by Sharon Salzberg. And so I imagine the entire earth as one beating heart, held in the space of this universe inside a larger body we can't fathom, filling with enough love to lead each of us out of the cave of our personal pain and into the light. Enough love to lead all humans as one out of collective rage, fear, and hate into a place of peace that is found only within our own hearts. Beating in sync with the pulse of this planet we were born to inhabit. Despite the daily storms which overtake us and make us forget, we are the lifeblood pumped into these veins. Every particle of love we generate running into rivers and lakes and creeks, evaporating into the air, we breathe, give back, and breathe again. So can y'all hear me okay? Should I move this a little closer to me? or-
No, you're fine.
I'm fine? Okay, great. Sorry for all the people at home. I had that one too. Oh, okay.
That's the home people.
Oh, that's the home people. I'm learning my way around here. So there's a fellow named Gus Speth. He is a lawyer, an environmentalist, and an author. And he has this saying that I really like. It talks about how the things that lawyers and scientists do isn't what we need right now in the time of climate crisis. And while I was getting ready for this service, I found out that he actually wrote a poem about it. So I'm going to read his poem to start. It's called New Consciousness. Decades of discourse led by people like me, lawyers, scientists, economists. We are stuck. We can't do what must be done, which is to reach the human heart. The deep problems of avarice, arrogance, and apathy, dominant values, astray. What we need is not more analysis, but a spiritual awakening to a new consciousness. So let's bring the preachers and the prophets, the poets and the philosophers, the psychologists and the psychiatrists. Let's bring on the writers and musicians, actors and artists. Call them to strike the chords of our shared humanity, of our close kin with wild things. So I want to just kind of invite you in. This is a beautiful day. I feel like I'm sitting on my porch. This is actually something I wrote, so it's kind of my own reading. I think of it as a little bit of an ode to Mary Oliver. I'm sitting on my back porch where I come most days to steep in glory. The sun is warm and the leaves are sighing. I hear squirrels. Now I watch their progress, visible only as branch after branch bends under their slight weight. I imagine the thousands inhabiting my yard, from the small mitochondria clinging to tree roots, earthworms and cicada pupae, ants, bumblebees and honeybees, grasshoppers, butterflies, crickets, mosquitoes, palmetto bugs too, I suppose. Animals and skinks, chipmunks, rabbits, at least one black snake, the one that surprised me sunning itself by the driveway. So much beauty, so much life, and I haven't even mentioned the plants and trees. There's a whole neighborhood of beings outside my door, and I can't bear to imagine it otherwise. Friends, this last year has been a year of sorrow in many ways. And this last month, even more so, particularly for us here in the Carolinas. A time of pain and sorrow as we have grappled with losses small and great in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. We have experienced things. We have seen things now etched into our mind's eye we would rather unsee and cannot soon forget. Asheville, the place where everyone wants to retire to because it is beautiful, because we thought it could escape some of the worst impacts of climate change, now on the front lines. In the midst of trauma, it is hard to know how to respond. For some of us, our response is to rescue people and rush supplies to hurting neighbors, For some, it means cleaning up messes and rebuilding infrastructure. These are the immediate needs that deserve our response. But we must also attend to the bigger story, the larger spiritual context in which this drama is unfolding. Storms like Helene, once in 1,000-year storms, are happening just weeks or months apart. They remind us our planet is in crisis, crying out for help. This cry is not new. Thomas Berry, in Dream of the Earth, wrote in 1988, "We are talking only to ourselves. We are not talking to the rivers. We are not listening to the wind and the stars. We have broken the great conversation. By breaking that conversation, we have shattered the universe." And Victoria Lours, author of Church of the Wild, it's this new movement where you go outside and have church, says, "We have lost the relational language for the natural world and part of our souls along with it." But friends, as dark as this sounds, do not despair. The soul language and conversation that we seem to have mostly forgotten may still be found among remaining indigenous populations, and in the writing of eco-theologians and artists like the beloved poet Mary Oliver. And there is a thread of this conversation within Unitarian Universalism, which hopefully our upcoming climate revivals, actually they've already started, I think yours is next week, will strengthen and center us within our congregations and our denomination in the coming days and years. And I hope it will help us to listen more deeply and to move deeper into relationship with each other, with this congregation, with our fellow congregations, and with all of our relations. That is my hope. But let's start just talking about language for a minute, shall we? Unitarian Universalists say that we are part of this interdependent web of all creation. As the image suggests, everything is connected to everything else. If you pull on one strand, the rest of the web responds, stretching and taking new shape. If you remove a part, some other part will contract, maybe even collapse. What this image does not convey, however, is any knowledge or understanding beyond the mechanics of how a web is put together. It does not name characters. It does not tell a story. It does not love. In her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, which is kind of like my new Bible, Robin Wall Kimmerer unfolds story by story the relationships that her people engaged with water and trees and coyote and strawberries all around them, learning the wisdom these beings had to teach them. Indigenous people lived in a reciprocal relationship with the beings of the earth, and each one had a purpose to fulfill and an area of influence, and humans were to respect that. To understand our relationship with the earth, perhaps there is no better place to begin than with our creation stories. We have a couple. In the scientific view, we have the Big Bang and evolution. Humans, one life form among many, evolved through a selection process that acts on randomly generated variations with no particular perceivable purpose or responsibility. I talked to my scientist husband to make sure I got that all right. From the religious perspective, which is where I like to come from, we have multiple stories of how humans were created from or came to Earth, usually with the help of a mysterious, generative spiritual power with whom we are in some kind of relationship, and we are charged with a purpose. In either scenario, thus far at any rate, we humans are recent among the later ones to arrive. Being last in some stories means we are the best part of creation. We are the cleverest and most advanced, kind of like the next, year's cars on the lot. We have all the bells and whistles, right? This has actually been true in both the scientific and the Christian view, if you think about it. But among indigenous peoples, being last means that we're the youngest. We're babies, really. And babies are dependent, with much to learn from those who were already here, including trees and water and grass and all the animals. So one view kind of lends itself to being a bit self-aggrandizing, and another lends itself to being a little more humble. The point here is it matters how we think about ourselves. Is human creation really Genesis, the beginning of everything, or is it simply our entrance into a much broader and older story? So one thing we can do is to think carefully about the story we tell, our place in that story, our role, our contributions, the unfolding of life around us. What is the story we've been telling ourselves? Who is featured in that story? Who is not? And more importantly, what story do we need to be telling now? Perhaps another way to think about that is, who are the characters that we want to populate our web with? Where are they on that web? So the story we're telling these days at GreenFaith comes from some listening and some relationship building we have been doing in the climate justice space. As a faith-based organization, we do begin with the idea that the earth and all beings are sacred, and that our religious traditions, as well as our moral and ethical teachings, all align to say we have responsibility to take care of the earth and each other. We recognize that we are part of something much bigger than the human story. There is an entire ecosystem of other living beings to which we must be able to listen and relate in order to live in harmony with them. When we think about that, we can perceive that we've moved a little bit far beyond our niche in the relationships of things. We've been having an impact on some other people in that sphere. And so part of our collective story must now also include the damage that has occurred at our hands. In the name of progress, we have conveniently at times covered up our human qualities of avarice, arrogance, and apathy, as Beth lined out in the reading. And in order to heal these harms, we must first name them and find some way to atone, to come back into at-one-ment, in order to move into right relationship with all beings and the earth. At GreenFaith, we have been listening particularly to the stories and experiences of those who are saying that our extractive expansionist system is harmful and unsustainable. We cannot keep doing what we have been doing. We can't. It's going to end. It's going to end for all of us if we don't change. In my experience with GreenFaith, I think of several groups. I think of the northern tribes of the Anishinaabe when we went up to Line 3 several years ago, where they stood over the pipeline, where it crosses the headwaters of the Mississippi, praying for the protection of that water that gives all of us life. I think of Miss Sharon Levine living in Cancer Alley, Louisiana, who goes to a funeral every week and finally just got mad and then got busy and created Rise St. James, a Black faith-led group of mostly women who are resisting yet again another Formosa chemical plant in our community. I think of my GreenFaith colleagues, Baraka in Tanzania and Maxwell in Uganda, and all of their volunteer activists being harassed and arrested by police for protesting the East African crude oil pipeline, which is funded in part by Bank of America, y'all, that is displacing 100,000 subsistence farmers and polluting the land that is left. It is powerful and challenging to think about people whose lifestyles have done less than any of ours here in this room to cause this problem. Let me say that again. We live a lifestyle that's creating the problem. They're the ones who are bearing the brunt of it, much more. And they also live daily on the front lines of this crisis. They put their bodies on the line to protect the water we need to survive. They teach us that wild rice is not only food, but it is the bedrock of a whole culture. They are in relationships with rice and mountains and trees, and they speak truth and say water is meant to drink, land is meant to nourish, air is meant to breathe, and we can't do those things safely anymore. And so at GreenFaith, we are moving into deeper relationships by working with communities who are often the most affected. We partner with them to fight for a more just, equitable, and sustainable path into the future. I know, there's so many things we could do. How do you pick, right? Some people are going to plant gardens. Some people are going to do a plastic reduction campaign. Some of us are going to put solar panels on things. There's a ton of things you can do. But at GreenFaith, we like to focus on the big decision makers because we need to make changes at the national and global level if we are ever going to address this crisis at scale. And so we are busy calling on governments, corporations, and financial institutions to be truthful about what is happening and what they're doing to contribute to it and demand an accounting for the damage. We call on them to move into a more caring, just, and sustainable relationship with people and planet themselves. They could do this. We say boldly that big banks need to invest more than 7% of their entire energy sector financing into renewable energy. You know how they pat themselves on the back? We're leaders in renewable energy. 7%? What is that? How about 37% or 57% or 87%? 7%, they think that's good. We want to talk to fossil fuel corporations and demand that they have public plans that year by year show the benchmarks for moving out of new and existing fossil fuel investment and into sustainable investments. And we want to talk to governments like ours and say they must stop fossil fuel subsidies. They need to make the liquefied natural gas pause permanent and pass legislation that recognizes the challenges we are facing by centering the climate crisis as the gravest collective concern that we face. And finally, we demand that the excessive profits being made get returned to the communities to compensate for loss and damage. We signed a letter saying that the fossil fuel subsidies should all go to help fund what's happening to help those communities that have been impacted by Helene, for example. It's $20 billion. What could you do with $20 billion over there in Rutherford and Buncombe counties? It's a lot of money.
It would help.
It would help. Right. Where's it going instead? I don't know. CEOs. So, in our reading today, Gus Speth says we need a new consciousness. He calls upon the spiritually creative among us to lead the way to a spiritual awakening. Science, law, economics, and business may help us find the specific answers, but we need people of spirit and soul and grit because they are uniquely situated to awaken and inspire us to move on this path. We have scriptures, we have teachings, we have ritual and art and worship, we have spiritual practices, and we take faithful action. I'm reminded here of the New Testament verse. It goes, we know that the whole creation has been groaning, as in the pains of childbirth, right up to the present time. Writes Paul, the author of the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 22. Oh, you have no idea. 2,000 years ago that was written. Indeed, creation is groaning and something is changing and coming into being. A pessimist might say it is an age of catastrophic events, but I am not a pessimist. Instead, I believe that we are poised to make the birth of this new consciousness that Speth writes about. It is time for us to be called into deeper relationship. Let us move out of our everyday routines and use this moment to call for something different. Let us refuse to be confined by the old ways of thinking and being and do something different. We are called as people of faith and as Unitarian Universalists to act. Let our upcoming revival be an opportunity to be awakened to what is happening and to be inspired to do something about it. We must allow ourselves to listen deeply and be moved. We must strengthen relationships and bonds of love. We must tell and live into a new story, a story that accounts for a more than human community. Here is something that someone wrote in 2000, it's part of the Earth Charter. We stand at a critical moment in Earth's history, a time when humanity must choose its future. As the world becomes increasingly interdependent and fragile, the future at once holds great peril and promise. To move forward, we must recognize that in the midst of a magnificent diversity of cultures and life forms, we are one human family and one Earth community with a common destiny.
Yes.
We must join together to bring forth a sustainable global society founded on respect for nature, universal human rights, economic justice, and a culture of peace. Amen. And towards this end, it is our imperative that we, the peoples of the earth, declare our responsibility to one another and to the greater community of all life and to future generations. From the Earth Charter, the year 2000. Friends, I'm calling on you to proclaim it. This is the issue of our time. I don't know yet what your piece of the story will be here in Lake Norman, but you have work to do. Please know that we need your participation and your leadership on this one. There is no place for anyone to sit. Be inspired, enlivened, energized, think big, and as we say at GreenFaith, be bold for good. Amen. Ashe, blessed be.
Hallelujah.
Oh, yes, this new thing.
We have a talk track where everybody gets to put in their 2
I
cents.
forgot. This is a new thing. Hi, everybody. You want to talk to me? What's up? Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
How
Yeah,
does this work?
yeah. Well, it works like they're all out there with
Test, test.
wonderful ideas.
Test.
Hopefully.
If
Yeah,
we have a mic, if you don't want to move forward, we've been asking everybody to move forward so that you can get picked up on the camera so that our viewing guest can also see you and see what's being said. But if somebody doesn't feel the need or ability to get up to go to the front, I've got a mic so you can be picked up.
yeah. So, thank you. That was, yeah. We're having, Pat is going to explain more about this, what's it called? The
Climate revival.
Thank you, the climate revival, which we haven't really mentioned a lot of, but we're going to do that next week.
I was trying to set them up.
Yeah, but I'm sure we all have our ideas on climate change and how we can help, that thing.
You want to do your thing?
Not yet.
No, okay, come on up.
You gotta do your thing, man.
Okay.
Come on up.
Everybody's been watching the bug.
Oh, wow. I see now the talk back is going to involve the stink bug. Seriously, though, does anyone have any questions?
It's not a stick bug.
Oh, it's not.
We've been distracted.
We've been
I can
distracted by the
see
stick
that.
bug. One thing that has, one thing I have really found interesting in working with the overall UUA to get ready for the climate revivals. And yes, they didn't start last weekend, or they started the weekend of the hurricane. And one thing that has been energizing for me is the language that they are using, saying that we have to move beyond just thinking that this is an environmentalist kind of frame of mind. We have to think about climate change We have to think about the equity. As Amy mentioned, an American lifestyle that we lead is contributing and causing so many of these problems, and yet the people who are on the forefront of it are those with less means. And in this country and almost everywhere else, you'll find that toxic dumps were placed in neighborhoods with people of color and with people with less money. I think that's an important thing to remember. Also, the word reimagine is being used a lot in this work, and that's what we're going to try to do when we get together next weekend, and Pat will tell you how we're going to do that. But we want to identify what we think is important, and we want to reimagine what it could be. The kind of world that Amy described isn't here with us today, but we want to reimagine something beyond extraction. We've extracted so much from the planet that there's almost nothing left. And we have to stop that lifestyle and that thinking of just extraction. So we'll ask for your thoughts next weekend when we gather, and we will come up with an action plan that will present to the congregation. So rethink what you may have been thinking about climate change. My husband, as I told you, is coming back from Greenville, South Carolina, but he did, on his way down to the funeral, he did go up through Travis Rest and up into Biltmore and then go see how our house had fared. He was shocked. He talked to me on the phone this morning and he said, we've seen the videos. Most of you know Asheville's my home. It's my hometown. We've seen the videos, we've talked to people, but he said, I was not prepared for what I saw. And luckily our house is okay. The tree has gotten off, it just needs to be cut up. But these things are happening, and we want to get your thoughts, we want to reimagine. And no, all is not lost. We just have to get everybody involved. And thank you very much for your message.
I just want to say I was at a NASA kind of place. I forget, it was in Chincoteague, in that area. There's some kind of a place. Anyway, in the elevator, there was a sign that said, what country in the world has the worst weather? Guess what the answer was? The United States. Which, because you think, some faraway place or something, but the answer was the United States. And it's only getting worse. I'm hoping we can do something about it. Yeah.
I just want to, as I'm listening to Amy about our lifestyle here and how impacted we are in the environment overall throughout the world. And just one of the things that I've noticed as I'm looking at various things in real estate and things of that nature is kind of my thing. There's a company called Bamcor, and Bamcor manufactures wood for building houses, but it's made from bamboo. And it is a renewable source. It takes a lot less energy to develop this. It takes a lot less energy to build houses with it. It is very energy efficient once it's done, but it is all about a renewable source for building material. We see building going on all over the place. This company, Bamcor, this material is really an amazing development towards the environment and towards reducing all of our energy needs and impact on the environment. It's called Bamcor. So, anybody going to rebuild a house? Going to get stuff like that? Look up Bamcor.
We see them everywhere.
Yes, indeed. Renewable, it grows easily. It's a great source.
Anybody else? We'll probably have a lot more to say next week. We have our.
Now I feel guilty that I bought a car and it wasn't a hybrid. I had to buy the car because of an accident, but, we don't stand up, I guess, just the age and let's not worry about it, somebody else will do it. I do feel guilty about it.
Well, I just want to say the hybrids, they have to extract minerals out of the earth too.
Well,
And
that's true.
they're not, I think we still need something better. So don't feel guilty.
No.
Anybody else? Okay.
Go ahead.
Sure.
The system is rigged for it not, like, for us to do badly, right? Like, the whole system is kind of rotten. So part of what we're talking about is, reimagining a different system. And that's why GreenFaith works up here, because we want we want car manufacturers to change what they offer. You walk on a lot and, on any given day, what's available to you is limited. They may have a stream of good things, but they have still a whole bunch of bad stuff. It's the same with your investments and everything else. ESG investing, oh, we have a green investment. To me, it's kind of like, somebody saying, oh, I'm going to build a health clinic in your community and everybody's going to get good health care. And then over here, I'm going to sell cigarettes and Twinkies so that you can get sick. It's like, we need to stop that and do this. And I know that there's a transition time, but like I said, 7% investment is not transition in my book. They can do better, and that will help us do better. It's hard to make good choices when the system is set up for you to make bad choices.
Is that global banks, Amy, or just American banks?
So when you talk about big banking, most of them are operating on an international level. So Bank of America, Chase, Citibank, and Wells Fargo are the four main US banks that are operating at the top of this chain of international banks who, Bank of America has a great reputation in Charlotte. They won some Justice Award a couple of years ago. I almost choked. They do a lot of good things in the community, but the problem is that they're doing bad things in somebody else's community, and those things need to be linked. We need to understand that the good that we're experiencing may be coming at the expense of somebody else, and they need to be honest about that. I mean, banks can be good things. We all have to bank, right? Which is why it's a good target to talk about, because we all need to have a place to put our money. And so we want to challenge them to do better, because they say they're a good corporate citizen. So let's show me how you are.
Who was the fourth one? Bank of America, Chase,
Wells Fargo and Citibank.
Citibank.
Show me the green.
Yes, I have a whole lot. GreenFaith has worked with Green America and Third Act to produce a curriculum. It's ostensibly 12 weeks, but you can do it for as long as you need to. It's to help you move your money out of a bank, out of a credit card, out of insurance, and out of your investments. It takes a while. It's not something that you do overnight. You do it with the group so you can help each other, because it's discouraging and boring. I mean, unless you're a banker, it's not like my favorite thing to think about. I'm gonna go and move my money from here to here. I might feel good about it afterwards, but it's sort of arduous, because you have to get rid of all your automatic debits and withdrawals and things like that, and fix that and move it over here. But it can be done, and we have a curriculum to help you do it, if that's what you want to do. Anyone else? Yeah, sure.
I think a lot of times too, things have to do with price. Like they'll make something that's healthier or better for the environment, or better for your own environment, but they price it so that the things that are less healthy and less good for the environment are more affordable. And people, I think, naturally just go to that, because most people, unless you're in some financial bracket, can't afford it. Different kinds of heating for the house, different kinds of building materials. They have to make things affordable for everybody to want to do that. The same with cars. There are cars that can do a lot better as far as the environment, whatever. But, not everybody has $70,000 or $80,000 or $100,000 to spend on a car. So they're going to say, well, that's nice, but not me.
Yeah, thanks, Naomi. So for our viewers at home, Naomi was talking about how things that are better for the environment are often priced in a more expensive way, which means we make hard choices because our pocketbooks are hurting, and we go with the thing that's maybe is more damaging either to our body or to the environment in some way. And that's the justice issue of this, Naomi. It's, making things affordable for people. Going back to talking about fossil fuel subsidies earlier, fossil fuel is cheap for a reason. It may not necessarily be that cheap if it didn't have that subsidy. So how can we start plowing subsidies and money into things that people could buy that are actually more healthy for their bodies and for the environment? That would be a way to think about that. We have subsidized many, many things in this country, and we still do, and we could move some of those subsidies to better ticket items. Yeah.
Even healthier food.
Yep, including
If you
food.
have, if you want to order a food that doesn't have something in it, they charge you more, which I can never understand. If it's gluten-free or salt-free or whatever, they don't have to put that in, but they charge you more for not putting it in. So.
That's not a justice issue.
No, yeah.
I look at that as a justice issue.
It's a justice issue, absolutely.
Doesn't so much of this depend on what's happening on November 5th?
Yes, GreenFaith has been making
Certainly
calls
help.
every
Thank you.
Thursday night. If anyone wants to phone bank, we're doing it. I mean, it's nonpartisan, but, vote for climate. Vote for climate, absolutely.
Our whole conversation could go one way or the other depending on November 5th.
What do you think about planned obsolescence that many American manufacturers have taken on as part of what they do? They could build a fill in the blank that would last longer and would not end up in landfills quickly, but they don't. It's planned obsolescence. It's planned that it's only going to last you this length of time. And then you've got to fork over money, you've got to get another one, you've got to somehow landfill these elements. I think that for some corporations, that's just part of, they're not going to tell you that, but I think that's what you're going to operate.
Well, I think it's the kind of system that we're in. Capitalism runs on continuing to grow and more and more and more. And we need a different kind of economy that talks about, either circular economy or things that last or can be fixed. I mean, the fact that, I didn't own a printer for the entire time I was minister here and then beyond, because I didn't want to have to throw like the last one that they couldn't fix. It's more to fix than it is to get a new one. So I ended up getting a new one. I'm like, I'm not doing that again, right? That's ridiculous. We don't have to be like that. We can send, I used to say, before I stopped wearing pantyhose, you can send somebody to the moon, but you can't make a pair of pantyhose that doesn't run. What's wrong with that? This is crazy talk, right? Anyway, yeah, I mean, it's designed to, keep the economy moving, a particular kind of economy, which doesn't mean we can't have a different economy, but it's going to look different, and it may not produce the giant swings to our retirement portfolios, for example. We may not have as much to retire on, but maybe we won't need it because the planet will be healthier. There's so many ways to think about this, right? Like, we're all saving for that horrible health crisis we're going to have, right? Isn't that awful? And wouldn't it be better if we just had a healthier planet? You didn't have to worry about that so much. I kind of like that model better. Anyway, I know we're getting on in time. One more comment, or I don't know how long you're left. I'm allowed to stand up here and talk. Y'all who know me know I can talk forever.
I don't have myself scheduled yet, Lynn.
You don't have yourself scheduled?
No, I'm coming later.
Okay.
Coming later. We need Mike's musical response.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Let's hear it, Mike. Thank you.
Eddie, you're on.
Okay, thank you.
It's a G. Oh, G. Oh, G.
G for guns.
G for gun.
Set guns to stun. There's a lot of stuff going on in the guitar world with wood. This is Sitka spruce from Alaska. This is rosewood from East India. This is mahogany from British Honduras.
Right on.
So it's getting really scarce, so they're building a lot of guitars out of synthetics these days. Wood is an issue, big time. Musical instruments.
Therefore.
And you pay more.
Yeah,
Of course, you pay more for better wood. Eddie has no idea what's happening.
Just that it's in G. Got that part.
I wrote this for Earth Day several years ago. Many years ago. Come tomorrow, if you rise, in the forest are sweat from your eyes. Will you remember? Were you around? You know, some say they never heard a sound. Well, the moral of the story will not matter anymore. When the hole in the sky gives away, that'll be one good day for crying, but the universe is dying today. Come tomorrow, if you rise, and the vast empty oceans fill your eyes. Will you remember? Are you awake? These angry waves are never gonna break. Yeah, the salmon and the dolphin, the otter and the whale, I read in a wonderful tale. But the water's dark and dirty, your evil point is setting a sail. Tomorrow, if you're here, then you're trying to swallow the air. Will you remember rainbows of flowers when all of the gardens are bare? Hey, the elephants, the wrong run, they're hiding from a gun. They just can't hold on anymore. And standing in your ivory chains and alligator shoes, you could not remember, you could not recall, you could not remember at all. So say goodbye, don't you cry, there might be some that hiding. Say goodbye, and look to the sky. I thought I saw one flying. Say goodbye, 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 goodbye.
Wow, that was appropriate.
Yes.
The basket. Here's the man. This fellowship is important to all of us. The contributions we make today allow us to sustain and grow our congregation and to reach out to the community, both nearby and the larger world. Your giving affirms our commitment to each other and keeps us going. I've handed, these are pledge envelopes, I've handed these out to most everybody. There's one or two that I missed. But not only your financial contributions, but look at the bottom of this page. We need people to set up when we start the, at 2:30 or so, we need people here to do a lot more work than the few people that get here early. So look at that, and maybe you can dedicate a Sunday a month to help out or whatever else you might want to help us with. With grateful hearts, we receive these gifts. They encourage us to live lives of integrity, compassion, and peace. And now for the announcements. Pat, you're on.
It's all time, isn't it?
Yes, it's all.
Time. In honor of Lynn and Bruce's 40th anniversary, she asked me to write a poem. Today, it's a poet I be, though my long suit is not poetry. Next Sunday, we meet as the service is complete to talk of our climate's rising degrees. The UUA calls it climate revival, though for UUs another word might rival. Make it workshop or plan would help us understand the crisis of weather survival. Next Sunday, please plan to stay. We'll meet in small groups that day. We'll talk CO2 till our faces are blue and maybe create a new way. Thank you, brother. Tracy's gonna lead a group next week, is that right? Yeah. Jim Price is gonna lead a group. And Lynn, who else? Oh, Lynn is doing one and I'm doing one.
There will be refreshments.
There will be refreshments. Thank you, Mary. God bless you, Mary. Honest to goodness, really means a lot. And Amy, thank you for firing us up today. What a wonderful introduction to what's going to happen next week. By the way, it's total synchronicity that both Amy and I are talking about deep listening. She was talking today about it. I'm going to talk about it next week. I don't know how that happens, but stuff happens. Who's going to be able to stay next week? We hope to get it done in 90 minutes. Molly's going to stay. Who else can stay? Lynn's going to stay. Good. All right. All right. So we're going to have 5 people next week. We're going to have 5 people dividing into 4 groups. Seriously, y'all, this is an opportunity for us to genuinely listen to each other, listen to what might work, what might not work, to process a lot of what Amy said today, to think about these big banks, these big governments, these big corporations, and think about how we can join forces with groups like GreenFaith to make a difference. So I hope more than 5 of you will be able to stay next Sunday, and we promise to be out by 5:30. We're going to have our regular service time until 4, and then at 4 o'clock we're going to have Mary's refreshments, and we're going to break into 4 small groups to do this climate revival. And if some of you are repulsed by the word revival, we can also call it a workshop or a plan. Next week, right after service.
Will there be a tent?
Tennis.
Will there be a tent?
Well, we are going to collect ideas and report out, so it's going to be kind of a test. Yeah.
Not a test. A tent.
Oh, a tent.
A tent.
No, there won't be a tent.
Trying to revive.
It's not a revival.
We're trying to revive it. Come on.
Will it be tense?
Just, everyone else is looking at your bulletin for other things, fusion bowl, we'll go to the fusion bowl afterwards for dinner.
Is that 3 weeks in a row?
I know there's still a bug up there. Yeah. Anyway, closing song, 112, you hear?
What?
Do you hear, oh my friend, in the place where you stand, to the sky is a plan? Do you hear, in the heights on the plain, in the veil on the plain, the sun and the rain? Do you hear, do the roar, do the hush, do the roar, do the crush? Do you hear the hush of your soul?
Cry, hear God still, hear the heart start to will, hear the stars start to chill in your soul, in your soul. The place where you stand, to the outermost strand, do you hear, oh my friend? Do you hear, all the winds, all the tears, all the stars, all the prayers, are they yours, are they theirs? Do you hear, I'm not a soprano anymore.
Me either.
Supposed to have closing words?
Closing words.
Closing words. These are written by Christine Walters, painter. It's a blessing from and called Earth as the Original Cathedral. May you find sanctuary among the trees and stones and feel the earth preparing a place for you to sit and breathe and be. Let the long limbs of branches form a canopy over your head. Let the hills open up a place for you to soar. May the stones form an altar, and see how the sun makes everything shimmer and glisten so that everything shines forth from within. Let the tender vine climbing the trunk show you what it is to reach the sky. Let all the living creatures that gather, winged and four-footed ones, offer a new companionship. All around you, see yourself as part of this glorious cathedral. The lake and the holy wells are fonts of baptism. The river rushes down, carrying gifts from the mountains, and the oaks and the sycamores create a sacred circle. Feel the veil between heaven and earth slip away. Until you know this sanctuary of soil and sunlight, listen to the sky for her secrets on wind, lifted by wings and song. Go in peace and love.
Namaste. Yes. Amen.
Join me in the extinguishing the candle, which I must say I really like. And maybe it's better energy-wise. I don't, we're not burning a candle. Anyway, we
Extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. Namaste.
Good week, guys.
all right, you be good. Take care, okay?
Yeah. So glad to see you.